Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we got ourselves a couple of updates on the Shadowlands. Now normally I would say something like updates on Shadowlands beta, but the game is finally out and we got a lot of exciting things coming up very soon for the game for the seasonal stuff. Next week is going to be extra busy. But in today's video, I mostly want to take a look at some of the updates that have happened recently. One of them being Torghast. Some of you guys are enjoying it, but some of you are having a hard time. So Blizzard decided to help a lot of you guys out, especially if you play certain classes. Also legendaries. The drop rates on those, while not nearly as bad as Legion, for some people feel just like Legion. So Blizzard decided to address that in today's update to make drop rates a little bit better, in particular synonymous with the new Mythic Pluses that will be starting next week. So you might have better chances going next week to get the best in slot Legos you need. We're gonna cover everything one at a time, but first, next week is going to be the release of the new raid, Castle Nathria, as well as the Mythic Plus season beginning, as well as the PvP season starting that same week. A lot of things for you to do. I will probably make a separate video on the day of Tuesday, which will when the content will be released for the NA servers, in order to go over everything that you should be doing for the weekly vault, which will have all these activities, the raids, the dungeons, as well as the PvP. Not particularly the conquest grind, but the honor you'll get from PvP in both arenas and in battlegrounds. All that content will be eligible for a weekly reward. While in the previous expansion, only the Mythic Pluses as well as the PvP stuff were eligible for a weekly reward, which will give you more options. You still come back with one piece of gear at the end of it, but it'll give you a lot more options to work with. But legendaries, let's start with those. Legendary powers are going to be integral to this expansion. As players, we are even inclined to farm them for more than just those active powers. We also can farm them for mogs, since every single piece is part of a full set, and the whole set looks absolutely fantastic, which should be available I think at a later time, maybe by the second tier of this expansion. To craft a legendary, you need Soul Ash, which you'll get on a weekly cap from Torghast, with catch-up benefits of course. You also will need to have an armor token that you want to put this legendary on, whether it's an armor token for a ring, a cloak, a chest piece, or shoulders, or anything of that sort. You also need to have 2 scrolls of stats. All these items can be earned directly, either from running Torghast or visiting your local auction house, or finding somebody with a relevant profession to craft you these items. The last tidbit that you need to craft your legendary is the recipe, and once you learn the legendary recipe, you earn it forever until the end of this expansion. All the legendary recipes are on a different drop tables for different bosses. If it's something farmable like a dungeon, you need to run it a couple times. If it's on a raid boss, you do raids only once a week, so it'll have a slightly higher chance. And if it's a world boss, well, that one is on a rotation, and you might not be able to see that world boss for a couple of weeks. So that one is guaranteed. As long as you get a tag on that boss, and as long as it falls, you will definitely get your legendary. And there's a variety of different ways to earn these recipes, from buying them with rewards or getting a certain amount of renown with certain covenants and being able to purchase them directly. So there are multiple ways of going about it, but a lot of the legendaries are going to come from dungeons. Quite a lot of classes have dungeon-specific legendaries, maybe even best in slot. They come from first bosses, second bosses, and even last bosses of dungeons. Now for me, my best in slot legendary came from second boss of Spires of Ascension, and it took me about 6 to 8 tries on normal before I was able to get it. Other players are not so lucky. Blizzard decided to end up buffing the legendary drop rates on higher difficulties. This is especially important with Mythic Pluses available next week. So as you get your keys done for Mythic Pluses, it shouldn't really take you too long for your legendary to drop from that dungeon. I was actually surprised that it took people as long as it did to get their Legos. For me, I thought 6 to 8 runs it will be the average for everyone, but not everybody had the same pleasure of getting it that early. So hopefully the Mythic Plus change will allow players to focus in on certain dungeons with people having certain keys, helping out them get their weekly key done, but also farming those specific Legos. Another bit of change we had recently is with Torghast. A lot of you guys have been diving into Torghast, and I'm actually very happy to see that so many of you guys liked Torghast. I've made videos on Torghast before, and I've told to everybody that came by on stream what it is, the replayability, the different rewards you might be able to get, but the fun of getting the anima powers and watching your class scale and do crazy things you never could. that's the part that I feel like never got through until people finally get to play it. Another thing is, Blizzard has been balancing this Torghast for a while now in the beta. But again, you're not really going to get the biggest balancing out of the way until the general population will get their hands at Torghast. While it was a controlled environment over on the alpha/beta, on live it's a lot different, and some classes are finding themselves having a really difficult time getting the Torghast runs done. Certain specs are always going to have advantage inside of Torghast, but warriors and rogues were getting apparently screwed pretty hard. As a rogue, I never really felt I was super behind, but I really did need to roll some good Torghast powers for me to be able to survive the final boss. And a lot of rogues and warriors playing solo find themselves kind of underprepared, even if they do play the most optimal spec for the runs. So these are going to be all the changes warriors and rogues are getting, which there's quite a lot of good ones in order to help our survivability. We are one of those specs and classes that doesn't really get a lot of value from any self-heals, because how are rogues gonna self-heal, honestly? I mean, it got to the point where even my enhancement shaman with less gear had a slightly easier time in Torghast, especially with the rock boy and the, of course, self-healing and decent defensives and all these totems you can drop down, that where my rogue felt like, okay, I really need to roll good powers, otherwise I'm not gonna be in a good spot. There also were a couple boss nerfs and a couple enemy nerfs in Torghast as well. Another thing that Blizzard also wanted to address in Torghast is the amount of groups of people that are going to be playing. And it seemed like Torghast scales maybe a little bit too well. When you play solo, I find it easier than when I play with a group, whether it's 2, whether it's 3, and apparently people play in 4 groups and 5 groups had an extra hard time. So I think there's going to be more adjustments with Torghast when it comes to groups for Blizzard to try to make it more of an introductory experience. I don't think they are intending for people to struggle at layer 3. And of course, with better gear, we'll have an easier time, but it is intended that at layer 6, that's where most players are supposed to be able to go in order to get all their soul ash for the week. And layer 7 and layer 8, I think, has extra stuff you can get, like extra cosmetics potentially, but those are meant to be the difficult floors, layer 7 and layer 8. So if layer 3, even for someone in full heroics, is proven to be kind of legitimately challenging, it is cool that it's challenging, but then again, you also got to figure out, okay, well, if they're struggling with layer 3 at this gear, will better gear allow them to get into higher levels? So there's probably going to be a lot more adjustments for Torghast, just little fixing here and there, slightly tuning the health of this one mob, giving you more chances and better abilities on this other ability. So there's most likely going to be a lot more to come. But Torghast has been a very enjoyable experience. I am glad to see that so many people have gotten into it, and a lot more people have gotten into just running Torghast for the fun of it. Of course, we're going to have to do it on a weekly basis, and hopefully with these changes, it's going to be a lot easier for a lot of you guys, and maybe with these changes, more of you guys will want to try Torghast just for the sake of having fun with it. But that's going to be my video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this update, and I'll see all of you guys in another one.